This topic is all about sketching absolute value functions. That is to say, we want to sketch functions that look like this. A times x of value of x minus h plus k. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, first we need to know what the basic absolute value function looks like. So we're going to consider the parent function. That's a function without any bells and whistles. What's the simplest version of this equation we can make? Well, that's just simply absolute value of x. Well, typically when I graph things, I always want to start with a table of values. Anytime I'm dealing with a new function, I don't know what it looks like, just start with a quick xy table. Now, you can pick any x values you want. My go-to standard is -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. I find it that it gives me enough points to generate a good picture, and it's around the origin, so it's pretty simple. Now, hopefully we all know what to do. Just take these x values and plug it into the function. I hope we all know what an absolute value does. An absolute value makes things positive. So if I plug in x equals -3, I get out a positive 3. Plug in x equals -2, I get out a positive 2. Plug in a -1, get out a 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So let's go ahead and plot this guy and see what he looks like. So I don't need a lot of tick marks, so let's just do maybe a 5 by 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -3, 3, -2, 2, -1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. So it looks like they're straight lines forming a V shape. And that's sort of like the big idea. An absolute value, or rather a linear absolute value function, will always produce a V-shaped graph. Now that was pretty easy, making an XY table, but I don't want to make XY tables all day long. What if the equations were more complicated? What if they were of this form? Well, it turns out that every single piece in this general format plays a role in terms of changing the way it graphs. Well, let's go ahead and rewrite it again. Every single absolute value function that we're going to sketch will be of this form. So, what does every piece do to my graph? This A here, you can sort of think of him as your slope. I'm putting him in quotes because we don't have a true line, we have a V, but basically it plays the role of the slope. This H here tells you to go left or right. But notice the minus symbol. That minus symbol means it sort of tells you, it's sort of backwards to what you think. That is to say, if that number is a positive, you're going to go to the left. If that number is negative, you're going to go to the right. And lastly, this K here tells you to go up or down. See how he's a plus K? That means it should happen as how we expect. If this K is positive, we're going to go up. If this K is negative, we're going to go down. So that's basically it. If you can read an equation and figure out up, down, left, right, you can graph any absolute value equation, provided you know the basic shape, provided you know that your answer should always be a V shape. Well, when we figure out this up, down, left, right, what point do we move? I find it easier to focus on the vertex. So what we're going to do when we sketch these absolute value function is we're going to start the origin, move the vertex according to our equation, and then produce this V shape. Let's take a look at a few examples. Suppose I ask you to sketch f of x equals absolute value of x minus 2 minus 3. First thing I do is sort of read all the pieces that are in this equation. The number outside will be our slope. Now I don't see it, so it's always a 1. So my slope is 1 over 1. Any number that's adding or subtracting to the x will go left to right. And it's sort of backwards to what we think. Since I see a -2, that's actually going to the right 2. And then the number on the outside here will go up and down, and it should happen through common sense. So since it's a -3, it happens normally, we expect down 3. So one skill that we need to have is to be able to read these transformations. Now, assuming we have these transformations read, it's time to graph. So let's make a coordinate system. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not sure why I'm doing a 7 by 7, just a random number. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So here's the idea. We always want to start at the origin here, but I'm not going to make a point. I'm only making a point so you can see it. And then we're going to listen to our instructions. Our instructions were right 2, down 3. So from the origin, follow those instructions. Right 2, 1, 2, down 3, 1, 2, 3. This is where I'll make a point. Next, you're going to listen to your slope. Your slope tells you is 1, which is rise over run, up 1 over 1. So from this point that we made, we're going to listen to the slope. Up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, so on and so forth. But this is where you have to have prior knowledge. You have to know that our shape is going to be a V. So when you do this slope here, you have to go in both directions. So in addition to going up 1, right 1, we need to go up 1, left 1, up 1, left 1, up 1, left 1, so on and so forth. And there is our graph. There is our V shape. We sketched it. So that's basically how you sketch absolute value functions, right? You just have to read up, down, left, right, the motions, plot your vertex, and then listen to your slope. Let's go ahead and just do one more just so you have more than one graph in your notes. Let's go ahead and sketch y equals -2 absolute value of x plus 3. So first thing I would do is I'd read the transformations. So I have a slope of -2 over 1. Notice how there's nothing adding or subtracting to the x. So that means there is no left-right movement, so you just don't have to worry about that. But I do have an up 3. So those are the only transformations present, so let's go ahead and make our coordinate system. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So remember, we always start at the origin. Now there were no movements left to right, so I'm not going to go left and right, but I do have to go up 3. 1, 2, 3. Make the point there. Then I'm going to listen to my slope. A slope of -2 tells us to go down 2 over 1. So from the point that we made, we're going to go down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1. But again, you should know that this is a V shape, so do it in the other direction. Down 2, left 1, down 2, left 1, down 2, left 1. And there is our V shape. So sketching absolute value functions, there are a couple of things you need to know. Number 1, you need to know the shape. It'll always be a V. And number 2, you need to be able to read the movements. You need to be able to read up, down, left, right from the equation. So that's how you sketch absolute value functions.